St. Louis City Boys, what it do? From the arch to the booth, we talk about you. City Boys in the loop.
Shout out to the St. Louis City Boys podcast.
They're in your head just like Roman Berkey. This is a City Boys podcast.
City leads you into the City Boys podcast right now.
Kings, queens, and in-betweens, welcome back to the City Boys podcast. My name is Ethan Thornton, and today I am joined by none of my best friends, but I have a very exhilarating St. Louis City game to bring you a recap of, rate the kits that were played, bring you a fantastic point from myself, and of course, preview our upcoming opponent in FC Dallas. But before we get into it, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ethan Thornton, and tonight it's just me. To all our Grayson and Jacob stands, I'm sorry. They're too busy. They are very adult men doing adult men things out in the world. I'm really proud of them. Grayson is doing some secret stuff. Jacob is growing a lot, doing great at his job. So just make sure and drop in the comments that we're proud of the City Boys. They're all doing their things. So without further ado, I'm doing pretty good. My fiance and I just got back from a trip from Big Bend National Park in Texas. Entire podcast about the national parks and how wonderful all of our travels have been. But alas, this is a St. Louis City podcast, and despite a 1-1 draw against NYCFC, I am gassed going into this episode. I am gassed about this result because it honestly felt like a win. All right. Sometimes draws have that feeling. Sometimes draws can feel like a loss. And if I'm being honest, if many NYCFC fans probably see this draw as a loss in their eyes, these are 3 points dropped from their perspective. And of course, we'll get into the game. But first, we have to get into the lineups. Our rock at the back, Roman Berkey. And there were some rumors going into this game. There were some uncomfortable whispers because we signed Colin Welsh, the City 2 goalkeeper, to a short-term loan and brought him on this trip to NYCFC. Unnecessary. We rostered 3 goalkeepers, so FIWB. Starting in the back, we have Dante Polvara, Timo Baumgartel, and Yaziel Orozco. That's from left to right. Fantastic work. Fantastic work from a couple of our back line today, or in that game. From left to right in the midfield, Rafa Santos continues to start with Daniel Edelman and Chris Durkin in that double pivot role with Conrad Vollum on the right-hand side. And then we had Marcel Hartel he played in front of them. It was realistically a 3-4-2-1 with Simon Betcher occupying that other center attacking mid spot. Cordova starting up top, getting his first start for St. Louis City, which was really interesting. Frankly, a little bit disappointing. I think that's fair to say. I was expecting a little bit more from Sergio Cordova. We also had some very important substitutions in this match. Very important substitutions. It got started with Miguel Perez for Chris Durkin in the 65th minute. This is a notable substitution because Chris Durkin took a knock, we learned later in the week. We would see Lucas McNaughton for Daniel Edelman in the 71st minute, which would then see Dante Polvara push up into the midfield, which frankly was I enjoyed seeing, guys. I got to be honest. I was a fan of Dante Polvara in the midfield. He looked fluid there. I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of him in that role later on in the season. Chris Durkin has a pretty go engine and tends to go into some hard tackles, has to leave a game early a time or two. Also, one for a yellow card every now and then, as Dante Polvara is as well. So I liked what I saw from Dante Polvara in the pivot role. I thought he did really well there. We would see Cedric Toykert come on for Sergio Cordova in the 71st minute and Micah Joyner for Rafa Santos in the 79th. And most importantly, Brendan McSorely for Simon Betcher in the 80th minute. And we on this podcast have been clamoring for more City 2 guys, and it feels like every week we just get vindicated. We'll get into the game before proving us correct. It started not great for St. Louis City. NYCFC had an early disallowed goal in the 9th minute. And watching this first half, I think the story of the first half was self-inflicted moments for St. Louis City. Bad moments that were self-inflicted. Just poor passes, misplaced passes that were turnovers that led to attacking chances for NYCFC. If we clean up those mistakes, we have a much more sure-footed first half. Thankfully, somehow we go into halftime 0-0, and we did have a few moments. NYC were the better team in the first half. I stand on the fact that they had better chances. Just for example, Daniel Edelman had a very uncharacteristic bad turnover in the 20th minute. Thankfully, the shot was hit right at Berkey, and he still had to make a save. But City did have a chance in the 25th minute. Betcher has good hold-up play on the top of the box. And I want to talk about that because it's notable to see Betcher in that stand-up striker role, because that was something I personally was unsure about, his ability to step into that role that João Klaus had. João Klaus is arguably one of the strongest strikers in the league, fantastic at that hold-up play, great at keeping a center back on his back and letting players run around him, which is so important when we have players such as Marcel Hartel and Seti Toikert who are great at running off the ball. So he holds it up, lays it off for Hartel, and Hartel forces Matt Freese into a save early on. Matt Freese played all right this game. He didn't have much to do, but I wasn't super impressed. I thought that at St. Louis City, if we could have created a better chance at any point in this game, really, then we would have found the back of the net. We'll get into it. NYC would break the deadlock in the 50th minute after a quality buildup. I was going back through this game and learned that they had 9 passes in the buildup to this goal. Just a fantastic spell of possession from NYCFC. They are second in the East going into this game and remain there after this game. And you would have to be blind not to see their quality. It was clearly a very well-organized team, fantastic at drawing out a press and great in tight spaces as well. So Morales would play Hannes Wolf through on goal, and he's just able to tuck it past Berkey. It's a fantastic finish from Hannes Wolf, who is a fairly lethal finisher at the end of the day. Not who I would have picked to score against us, although that's the kind of quality that NYCFC has. I would definitely be looking out for them in the Eastern Conference this season. So after NYC score, the game gets a little bit timid, right? NYCFC settle back. They don't want to get scored on. St. Louis City are pressing a little bit more, but can't really find a way through. But the game would absolutely open up in the 90th minute. St. Louis get a chance in the 92nd after a set piece from Hartel finds ahead of McNaughton, who puts it back across the goal. And Polvara smashes it just over the bar. It was maybe a foot over the crossbar. It absolutely plowed into the smoke towers that NYCFC have. And oh my goodness, this was a heart-wrenching chance because it was so late on in the game. It felt like it was going to be St. Louis's last quality chance. And also, it was so great to see St. Louis City with quality from a set piece. Marcel Hartel serves that ball on a platter for McNaughton, who's the only one who can go up and get it there. I wouldn't be surprised to see more of that. Dante Polvara is a tree. Mbake Fall is a tree. Falou Fall is a tree. And Timo Baumgartel is a big guy as well. So we have a lot of size on set pieces now. Marcel Hartel has plenty of targets to pick out. With Edu Levin's return on the horizon, I really want to see a set piece goal from St. Louis City. And wouldn't you know it, after Roman Berkey comes up with a huge save in the 94th minute, one-on-one against Maxi Morales, also a fantastic last-minute effort from Yaziel Orozco, St. Louis City would go the other way and get it wide to Wallem. At this point, I'm thinking, oh no, the chance is gone. Wallem has run up a cul-de-sac and is defended. He can't find a service, so he drops it back to McNaughton. McNaughton would serve, and his in-swinging service would find the diving head of Brendan McSorely, and St. Louis City snatch a point against NYC. I am getting hyped just talking about this goal. Reliving this goal is getting me fired up because in the moment I was jumping off the couch, screaming expletives at my TV, celebrating as if I had just contributed to this run of play. Guys, this was a huge moment for St. Louis City. This is bulletin board material, as Jacob would say. this is a moment that St. Louis City are going to look back on when the season is getting hard, when the season is getting long, when it is getting grindy, when they have 3 matches in 7 days like we do coming up, where St. Louis City are going to say, we grounded out. We found a way to win a point against New York City, and we are going to be able to find a way to win this match. I believe in St. Louis City so much more after this performance, which up until then had been lackluster, frankly. We had some shots on goal, but the second half was frankly not very, it didn't offer much in terms of St. Louis City's attack going forward. Like I said, there was a lot to be desired from Sergio Cordova. I do think that Cedric Toykert offered a really good dynamic up top. And guys, still impressed by Mekhi Joyner. Joyner has been wonderful this season, and there is no doubt in my mind that it's on his mind that he wants to get more minutes and impress the coach. And that's how he does it. He gets involved in the attack as soon as he gets onto the field. And now Brendan McSorely is scoring goals. So I really believe in this City team. I believe in the City 2 players who are getting moments. And that's the match. All right. St. Louis City come away with a draw, 1 point out of New York City. Also, if I'm being honest, before I move on totally from the game, kind of a rough watch. Kind of a rough watch from City Field. That camera angle was rough. The field did not look great. There were a lot of players slipping around on the turf. I'm curious. I don't want to be a hater because I've never been to City Field to catch a game there. So tell me if it's a good viewing experience. Although with the baseball nets for the foul balls as well, it doesn't seem like the greatest place to catch a soccer game. I don't know how to be more respectful than that, frankly. Anyway, since it's just me this week, like St. Louis City, the City Boys podcast is just going to have a single point. And I think my recap of the game summed up my point pretty well, which is just that I believe in this team so much more than I did last season at this point. I think last season, until Critchley took over, and even after Critchley took over, the last 15 minutes of a St. Louis City game were just a brutal, brutal watch. After the 75th minute, St. Louis City were a completely different team, one that other teams knew that they could take advantage of. A weaker side defensively, one that didn't really look promising on the attack then. Now, when you play St. Louis City, you know it's going to be a 90-minute game. You know that you are going to have to keep your head on a swivel for 90 minutes. Players like Chris Durkin, although he didn't go for 90 in this game, although Daniel Edelman didn't go for 90 in this game, they are 2 players in a trio with Marcel Hartel that is going to make you run for the entire game. I love what I've seen from Conrad Vollum as of late. I think it's very fair to say that he got off to a slow start, and I think it's fair to say that the wings are still lacking in production. I definitely want to see more from Rafa Santos and Conrad Vollum. I think that's why Mekhi Joyner has such a legitimate claim to clock right now. Even still, I believe in this team when they're on the field. I think it's fair to say that our defense hasn't been the best in the league, but they've shown dramatic signs of improvement. Dante Polvara has gone into the center back position with grace. I think that he's looked a lot better there than many people have anticipated. I've also been impressed with their ability to combine with our midfield. If I'm being honest, in the eye test, I don't have stats to back this up, but from the eye test, if I had to replace a St. Louis City center back right now, because Mbake Fall is probably at full fitness, for me, it would probably be Timo Baumgartner. Yaziel Orozco has shown no signs of bad games. He's been only quality so far this season. He has a few moments that have been bad, but no bad games. Timo Baumgartner is the one that comes to mind. But even still, I don't think he's been poor. All that to say, I don't believe that St. Louis City is at its best just yet. I think that we have just about shaken off the early season rust and are getting into our midseason form, which I think entails us taking points off of better teams, which objectively NYC is right now. And so Part of that is because we are a fighting team until the last kick. We are able to get a point on the last kick of the game from a City 2 player, no less, from a player fighting for minutes. And so that's what I see from the St. Louis City side. I see a team inspired by Yohan Demay. I see a team inspired by adversity from a leader off the field. And I see a team ready to charge into the rest of the season. And so that's my point this week. I left this game feeling very optimistic about the future for this team. And I hope that I can pass that on to some of our listeners. I know that I have been sipping the DeMay Kool-Aid, and we don't have Jacob here to tell me to mix in a water or Grayson to bring up some stats that might put a sour taste in my mouth. So I'm feeling very optimistic. Before I get into why I'm feeling optimistic against our upcoming opponent, FC Dallas, we have to give the NYCFC kit a rating. Ring the bell, everyone. Ding, 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 ding. It is time for Kit Clash, everybody. And this week we have a kit with a great name, but lacking in flair for me. The Excelsior kit from New York City. The color's good. I like blue and white. And they got a nice orange going on there in New York. And for such a fashionable town, for such a fashionable place, for me, it's lacking. It just doesn't have enough. I understand there's a reference to the city on the jersey. It's just not for me. I like the light blue. I do. But this kit is just not their best. And if I got to be honest, I'll be a little bit critical. In my opinion, if I think back, NYC has a history of, should I say, lackluster kits. I mean, if you look across the Hudson River at the New York Red Bulls, they have, like them or not, very flair kit. Their kits are full of flair. And that's lacking in New York City FC's kit. So for me, I'm going to go for a lower rating than I normally would on this show. Normally, I'm a big kit fan regardless. I generally like things. Sue me, okay? I'm going to go for a rating of a 6.8 on this kit. Not too high, not too low. Just in the middle for me. It's not that notable. All right, if I'm thinking a light blue kit, I would probably go for Charlotte FC. All right. That's fair. Fair's fair. And that'll wrap it up for Kit Clash. A first round knockout. St. Louis City was doing the business to them in their gold kit out there. I think it looks great. The Tina kit it really looks good on the field. So let's get into a preview of our upcoming opponent this weekend in FC Dallas. They are red hot. One might say they are burning up in Dallas. That's a reference to the Dallas Burn, their original MLS team name. Right now, FC Dallas sit at 6th in the West on 11 points. It's not a bad place to be early on in the season. They thrashed DC United last week 4-0. And this week they are at home and they're looking to stay hot. And all these references to fire and burning aside, because Peter Musa, he's been a polarizing player on this podcast. Generally, we thought he was a decent litmus test for Joao Klaus because we think he's of a similar quality. And if you want to go that route, you can compare. Peter Musa right now has 7 goals in 6 games. He's on a tear for FC Dallas so far this season. He's been very good. So, not to mention his supporting cast is performing very well so far this season as well. Logan Farrington is looking very good. He looks like the player that was promised, truthfully. Not to mention they have Sebastian Ibiaga in their back line. He brings a wealth of experience to the team. But they don't have Yohan Demay at the helm. All right. They don't have Marcel Hartel, who scores world-class goals. They don't have Cedric Toykert, who's playing with a chip on his shoulders so far this season. And although Petar Moose is arguably the most informed striker in the league right now. They haven't played St. Louis City so far this season. And just like St. Louis City, they've had some all right opponents. They played San Diego FC, who they drew 3-0. They played Nashville SC, who they drew 0-0. They also lost to LAFC. But they got their wins against the Houston Dynamo and DC United, which does not move me. That does not impress me. All right, but they are playing in Texas. I know the St. Louis City faithful are going to do us proud. And if I'm being honest, I'm going for a win here. I'm going for the win. I'm going for a high-scoring victory of 3-2. We know that St. Louis City has 3 goals in them. We are also aware after 2 straight games with 4 goals that Dallas have at least 2 goals in that. Excuse me. So I'm going for a St. Louis City victory of 3-2 on the road, which would be massive. That would be a massive victory for us. And then we go into the Open Cup with a win under our belts, with Edu Lovin's return on the horizon. So I'm going to pick Simon Betcher to score. It's his time. It's his time to score. And that's what I like against FC Dallas, everyone. You can say it in the comments that I'm sipping the Kool-Aid, and you would be right. But I don't mind it. I think a pessimist look at this game, I could see us losing just due to how well FC Dallas's attack is playing right now. I could see us getting outscored pessimistically, but I'm not pessimistic about this team right now. I'm optimistic because they have shown me reason to be optimistic. So I believe that's all I have. I don't think I have any grab bag for this episode. It's late on in the week. So I'm just going to leave it there. That's it for the City Boys podcast this week. We appreciate you joining us. Like, comment, subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Rate us 5 stars and follow us if you're listening on Spotify. But most importantly, don't forget to tell your mother you love her. I love you, Mom. Have a great night. STL STL STL